In this video, I'll be going over my top 10 graded Charizards in my personal collection, ranking them from my least favorite to my most favorite. I will also go over how I got the card, how much I got the card for, and how much it's currently worth in today's market. So without further ado, let's go ahead and grab the case and get right into the top 10. That could have ended badly. Starting with number 10, Charizard from XY Evolutions, currently valued at $74.25 in a PSA 8. I actually managed to pull this from an XY Evolutions booster pack back in 2020. Kinda crazy how XY Evolutions was still getting reprinted after 4 to 5 years since it's been out. This set was nice because it basically was a reprint of the original base set that also included Mega Evolutions, because that was a mechanic that was introduced during the XY era. In the number 9 spot, we have Shiny Charizard V from Champion's Path, currently valued at $220 in a BGS 9.5. Champion's Path, the set that got me back into collecting after almost 20 years of completely forgetting that Pokemon cards even existed. At this point, Pokemon was well into the Sword and Shield era, and Sun and Moon packs were still readily available, except for Hidden Fates, and we'll talk about that a little later. I pulled this from a Champion's Path Elite Trainer box, and I've actually personally pulled the total of 2 of these, but I was never able to pull the Charizard VMAX Hyper Rare. In the number 8 spot, we have Charizard VMAX from Champion's Path, currently valued at $174 in a BGS 9. Going back to what I said earlier, this was a card that I was never able to pull myself, so I eventually ended up purchasing it. So I looked at my eBay history and I actually bought this card for $260 back in the beginning of 2021, and an ungraded copy of this card currently goes for as much as a BGS or PSA 9, which I practically lost a lot of value. This set initially came out in September of 2020, and 5 months after release, the prices were still super inflated. During this time, a lot of people re-entered the hobby or entered the hobby for the first time, which also drove the prices up as well. If I were to wait until September of that year, I could have picked up this card for $110 less. Needless to say, this was a lesson learned. Number 7, Charizard EX Special Illustration Rare from Obsidian Flames, currently valued at $90 in a PSA 9. Now, fast forwarding to 2023, which is the current generation, the Scarlet and Violet era. I purchased this card off of eBay in December of 2024 for $50, and after sending it off to get graded, I still came back $20 on top. I really like this card because it highlights the terrestrialization mechanic that was introduced during the Scarlet and Violet era. What this does is that it allows the Pokemon to embody this crystallized or diamond form while also changing its typing. And what this essentially does is change the meta in terms of battling, whether it be in the console games or in the physical TCG. Number 6, Japanese Blaine's Charizard from Gym 2, currently valued at $130 in a PSA 8. This is a vintage card from 1999 that was given to me by my cousin Alan towards the end of 2020. During the time that I re-entered the hobby and started collecting again, I managed to find all of the cards that I had since I was 10 years old. And during the same time, Alan also managed to find all of his cards in his collection when he was around the same age as well. However, we had different plans for our collections. I wanted to continue collecting, whereas he wanted to sell off his collection. But before he did that, he allowed me to select some cards that I didn't have, free of charge of course, which I really appreciate. Number 5, Shiny Charizard GX from Hidden Fates, currently valued at $700 in a BGS 9.5. This card is an absolute banger, and it was the top chase card from Hidden Fates. I tried pulling this card so hard to the point where I eventually gave up. I bit the bullet and purchased it off of eBay for an absurd price of $500 back in May of 2021. You would have thought that I would have learned my lesson after purchasing that Charizard VMAX Rainbow Rare from Champion's Path, but I guess I didn't. However, I still came out on top because this card is now worth $700. And yeah, so I may not have learned my lesson because I ended up picking up a Greninja EX Special Illustration Rare from Twilight Masquerade not too long ago, but hopefully I was a little bit more strategic with this purchase. Number 4. We have Dark Charizard from Team Rocket Unlimited, currently valued at $400 in a BGS 9. This is another card that Alan had in his collection from when he was a kid that he ended up giving me. And now, actually looking at the card, it is super clean considering that it came out in 2000. And I have to be very grateful for a 10-year-old taking good care of this and it being in the condition that it's currently in. But if this were to be graded as a 10, it would be worth around $1,800. Pretty insane, actually. Number 3. Shiny Charizard VMAX from Shining Fates, currently valued at $214 in a PSA 10. This Charizard in particular is one of my favorite illustrations, and it is peak Sword and Shield at its finest. So not only did the Pokemon Company manage to knock this one completely out of the park by capturing the Gigantamax mechanic perfectly, but as the icing on the cake, they went ahead and made this shiny as well. So I managed to pull this out of a Shining Fates Elite Trainer box. However, the one that I had graded came back as a PSA 9. I ended up selling that and used the money to purchase a PSA 10, which is this one right here, which I got off eBay back in November of 2024 for $165. And since then, this card has gained some value. Number 2. Charizard from Base Set Unlimited, currently valued at $605 in a BGS 8. The Charizard that started it all. It would technically be my number 1 card just due to nostalgia alone, but the Charizard in the number 1 spot has a reason why it's there. So this Charizard here, I actually vividly remember trading for. I actually traded one of my friend's sisters for it, and he actually wanted it for himself, but I managed to bring my binder over to his house, and then she wanted a Jungle Vileplume and a Celebi from Neo Destiny for this. It's crazy to think that this card in a 9 is worth around $1,500 and in a 10 is worth around $9,000. And this is not even the Shadowless First Edition. Those prices are even more ridiculous. And last but not least, in the number 1 spot, we have Charizard Special Illustration Rare from 151, currently valued at $775 in a PSA 10. This card right here takes the number 1 spot as my favorite Charizard in my collection. This may not be your first time hearing this and most likely won't be your last, but 151 was the set that got me back into the hobby again. The last set that I opened before 151 was Evolving Skies, and I didn't even touch Crown Zenith. Towards the end of 2023, I did purchase several 151 booster bundles, and I had no intention of opening them. However, fast forwarding to November of 2024, I decided to open 2 or 3, and out of the second or third booster bundle that I had opened, I managed to pull the Venusaur God pack. And after that, it was game over for me. I was now fully invested in the hobby again. So fast forwarding to Black Friday of 2024, I managed to pick up some 151 poster collections, and out of the third one, I managed to pull this Charizard. And the feeling of pulling it and then also sending it in and getting it 10, that right there is completely unmatched. So that pretty much concludes my top 10. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my selection. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.